Continuing with simplifying radical expressions, again, I want to just remind you guys, my computer, when it does things, when I type it out for it quizzes and tests and like that, the index cannot go on the inside. So it'll print it right immediately outside. If it's little like an exponent, it really does belong in the index. I mean, it really is an index and belongs inside the V of that radical sign. So think of it that way. As opposed to if it's big, let's say, if it looks like this, then this is 4 times the cubed root of 27. Again, this little one goes right in there. It's not 4 to the third times the square root of 27. If that's the case, I would leave a space between, or you could ask me and I make sure to let you know one way or the other. But for the most part, something like this would just be 4 times the cubed root of 27. Okay? All right, little maintenance there. Okay, let's continue. Hit that button. Okay, so let's continue with examples. How about the 5th root of negative 243? Now be honest, how many of you wanted to go straight for not a real number? Remember, it's only not a real number if the index is even and there's a negative sign underneath the radical. Okay? So, this one I just do regular. Figure out, let me see, 2 is not going to go into this, but 3, 81, 3 and 27, 3 and 9, 3 and 3. This big boss tells me that 5 needs to be in a group. Remember, the index is a... So, my answer here is going to be negative 3, because there's only one group. I just take 1 from that group, and that's it. Now, we need to understand a little bit of something else, too. If I have the square root of 16, we know my answer is 4, right? But what if I wrote 16 as 4 squared? Is 4 squared still 16? Yeah, 4 squared is 16. So I really haven't changed anything. I just made it look a little different. It's the exact same thing, it just put on a different dress. Okay? So here's the thing. When your exponent and your index, and what's the index here if it's invisible? That's right, it's an invisible 2, meaning it's a square root. So when the index and the exponent match, then the base of this exponent falls out as our answer. So we need to also think about, however, if this is an even index, could our answer be plus or minus 4? Because if I take negative 4 times negative 4, I'm going to get back to 16, right? Because 2 negatives, when multiplied together, equals a positive. And positive 4 times positive 4 is negative 16. So we have 2 things here going on. One is we've got 2 answers when we have an even index. Even index. So we really always need to know whether our index is even or odd. So we've got 2 answers going. Always a positive answer and a negative. Because positive times positive equals positive. Negative times negative equals negative. So either of those answers are possible. So here's what we do to take care of that when we are pulling something out like this above up here. So if I have the square root of 4 squared, and because this is an even index here, to be sure of whether my answer is negative or positive, I will put it into absolute value. Let's think about absolute value for just a second. Absolute value just means the distance a number is from 0 on the number line. Remember this, you'll need it later. So if I have the absolute value of 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, 1, oops, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4. It just means go to 4. And how many spaces does it take me to get back to 0? It takes me 4 spaces. If I have the absolute value of negative 4, it just means go to the negative 4 on the number line. And how many spaces does it take me to get back to 0? Well, it takes me 4 spaces. Absolute value can never be negative because it's a distance. Okay? So we can think about these and try and remember that we have both of these. For this first quiz that you're going to be doing, you do need to think about that. But for all the rest of the time, most of it I think, we just need to worry about what's called the principal root, and that is our positive one. Okay, so for the most part, if I gave you something like this, the fourth root of 27 to the 4th, if you just pull out 27, I'm going to be just fine with that. For this first quiz, you will need to understand that if you have this, remember when the exponent and the index match, this falls out, but our index is even, so we would have to go with, the absolute value of 27, and the absolute value of 27 is 27. Make sure you've got that step in there for this quiz only. The rest of them, you don't need to worry about it so much. So let's just do some of these. The absolute, or the square root of 15 squared, I don't really care. I don't have to square the 15, and I don't care what that square root is. This and this match, so my answer is 15. That's it. The square root of negative 12 squared. Well, my exponent, my index match. So my, again, sorry, for this first one, I should always do this for you. 15. The absolute value of negative 12 is 12, so our answer is 12. If I had the square root of y squared, well, this and this match, so out falls my y, but it's an even index, so I have to account for both possibilities, plus and minus. But because I do not know what y is, it must stay inside the absolute values. Here I can take the absolute value of 12, or I can take the absolute value of 15. But I have no idea what y is, so it has to stay in the absolute value bars. So let's just do as many more as I can get in here. The fourth root of negative 5 to the 4th. Well, this and this match, the exponent and the index match, and the index is even, so I have to take the absolute value of 5, and my answer then, the absolute value of 5, negative 5 is 5. Let's take the fifth root of negative 5 to the 5th. Well, my exponent and my index match, so this will fall out as my answer, but this index is odd, so I don't need to worry about the two roots, the positive and negative. All I need to do is take what this is and out it falls, because an odd number of negatives will get me back to a negative. Let's try another one. -6 times the sixth root of -3 to the sixth. Well, the exponent and the index match. Index is even, so I have to do the absolute value of -3. The absolute value of -3 is 3, and negative times a positive is a negative, and so my answer is -3. Let's look at this one. Negative the fourth root of m to the eighth. How many how many 4s are in 8? Now, whenever this exponent is bigger than or equal to the index, then we have stuff can come out. If it's less than, then there's nothing to come out. So I could rewrite this as m to the fourth times m to the fourth, right? And then this and this both match, so that would mean that I've got m times m. And so I would have the absolute value of m squared. Or I can think of it as how many 4s in 8? There are 2 4s in 8, nothing left over. I don't know what the absolute value of m is because m I don't know, and so it has to stay in the absolute value bars. Okay? Let's do the cubed root of x to the 24th. Okay? So, how many 3s in 24? And my index is odd, so I don't need to worry about absolute values here. There are 8 3s in 24, so x to the third is what falls out. Let's do one more. 6th root of y to the 18th. Okay, index is even, so I have to worry about absolute value. How many 6s in 18? Well, there's 3 of them, and I can't get y out from underneath the absolute value bars because I don't know what it is. All right, now we'll go on to the second section.